What's up, everybody? It's Ben Scarborough, and I'm chilling here at Third Eye Collective. And anybody who's been on YouTube looking up music has undoubtedly seen a video that looks just like this layout, right? It's just a JPEG with a gradient on it and like the album art right there. Real simple stuff, right? Turns out that these are actually automatically generated by YouTube itself when record labels upload specific songs to YouTube. I thought it would be interesting to show how to recreate this simple effect in Photoshop if you wanted to, say, produce your own videos that look exactly like an official record label release, as a kind of like Photoshop tutorial, right? Like I'm not saying like you wouldn't just normally release your music through a record label and just have this auto-generated. It's a Photoshop tutorial, people. Come on. Okay, so we're here in Photoshop, and I've just opened it up. There's nothing happening. Simply pressing File New will give you this dialog box right here, and it'll be however big on your PC or Mac. But I usually just click Film and Video because there's actually a preset for 1920 by 1080 automatically here. And rule of thumb, just because I'm working with an OP PC, I changed the resolution to 300. So yeah, 1920 by 1080, 300. So there's our canvas. So the next essential part of the tutorial is the layers pane and understanding how it works. It's pretty simple. You can see that there's only one layer, and it's a background layer. It's locked and it's on. The little eye icon right here means that it's on. If I somehow drag the lock to the trash can, I can turn that layer off, but that's the whole point of the lock. So I'm gonna hit undo and just kind of put it back to where it was. I just hit Control Z there. So we have our starting canvas, and what we're going to do is we're going to go get our album art. This can be 1080 by 1080. That's usually what an album art resolution is. That's a square. I think that's what Spotify and Instagram prefer that their square artwork is. For the purposes of this tutorial, however, we're going to bump on over to Google Images and just grab something that's already a square that I like. Just for fun, we're going to grab King Crimson's album, Court of the Crimson King. Yeah. Because it's a cool album cover. And I want to click on Tools and click Size and go to Large to try and get the largest square resolution that I can. It looks like this is a nice square. You can see that it's 1400 by 1500, so that's great. I'm going to right click on this, hit Open Image in New Tab, and here I am in Chrome. It's the JPEG. Simply pressing Control S or Command S if you're on the Mac will open this save box and just save it onto the computer. And at that, here's my downloads in Chrome, and I can just show in folder, right? And just click and maybe like Alt Tab, and just boom, there it is. You can see that it is a new layer up here. It's got a random layer name, and there's this box around it, which is it means that this box is able to be transformed. You can kind of drag it either which way. I've messed it up, so I'm gonna hit Escape and just drag it back to the template. And up here, there's a little check mark. This actually commits the change, so you can see the box is gone, and we've actually added the album art to the canvas. The shortcut for free transform, by the way, is Control T or Command T, and just like that, we're back in this state, right? So free transform is cool because by default it should just keep its you see how it's not warping? Yeah, it should just click and drag and keep its resolution, I guess I should say. Now, while you're in free transform with any layer, you can hold shift and you can get that warping effect. And so that's really not the most clean way to free transform something. Generally, you want to do it where it's like, staying the same resolution. And so that's what we're going to do here. I'm just going to click the corner and drag it just so that it fits the canvas. And I'm going to commit my changes by clicking the check mark right there. Using the magnifying glass tool, I can now kind of zoom in and zoom out. And actually, I can get rid of these extras by going up here to hitting View and hit Extras. Now the blue lines are gone. But yeah, we're more or less there. Over here in my layers pane, I'm going to click the background image and press the little move tool. And I'm going to hold shift so it stays on the X axis and just kind of drag it to where I kind of think, is appropriate. I think that is appropriate. It could just be the mouth, but I like the eyes right there. Very cool. So just for organizational sake, we're going to organize the layers over here. I'm going to click on this layer and give it a name. We're going to call it album art background layer. Now, because this is a background layer, I actually want this to be a little bit darker than the actual album art that we're highlighting. So with the layer selected, we can click on image adjustments, and click brightness and contrast. And I'm just going to bring that brightness down ever so slightly. I don't think I really have to mess with the contrast too much because I just don't. We're only messing with the brightness. So I've brought it down to about 55. Cool. And you can see over here in the layer pane that the changes have been reflected by adding these little layers, and we can hide them by clicking the eye, toggle them on and off. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want. The next thing is we go grab the image again and drag it right back on top. I'm going to commit the changes by clicking the check mark right there, and I'm going to give this double click on the layer and give it a name. We're going to call this smaller album art. So I'm going to do Control T now for free transform, and I'm just going to drag this to maybe here or something. Yeah, that seems about right. Heck, if we wanted to bring the extras back on, we can see, so I'll just kind of position that right up against that line and get it as close as I can to the middle. But more or less, that's it. And I'll just turn those right back off. Next, we're going to create what's called an adjustment layer. And this is kind of like a phantom layer, if you will, a ghost layer. It's just a layer over here in this pane that we can do anything we want with it. And this is what we're going to use to create our gradient effect to match what the YouTube generator does. And I want to say this button right down here in the corner should just give us one. Yeah, right here. See, I clicked the little button right here next to the trash can, and here it is, an adjustment layer, layer 1. I'm just going to call this gradient layer, and I'm going to place it in between, just drag it in between the smaller album art and the larger album art, and we're going to give it a gradient. So the gradient tool is over here. The gradient tool is over here. It's kind of hidden in a menu. You right click it and you get the gradient tool. So you can see up here the menu bar up at the top has changed to reflect the tool, i.e. we click move, I get a bunch of move options, and then we click the gradient, boom, we got the gradient options. Up here on the menu bar, I'm going to click the gradient palette window, and the checkerboard in Photoshop indicates a transparent layer, and that's kind of what we're going for here. So I'm just going to click that, and then I'm going to select it, but then I'm going to click this area, and we're actually going to try and take that white down to a black if we can. And with our gradient layer selected, I can just click and drag up, and we get that see-through fade that people like so much. Very cool. We're almost done, guys. The thing that we have to add next to make this look just like an automatically generated YouTube video is the text and the name of the song. Now, I use a font called Myriad Pro because it actually looks just like what the YouTube thing generates. And I think it's because I have an option of bold and thin layers to choose from. So going over here on the left-hand side, I click the text tool, or T, and I'm just going to click on the image, and I'm going to type in Court of the Crimson King, and I'm going to commit my changes by clicking the check mark up here. I'm going to click the move tool, just kind of, get it to where I can, I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit and free transform this down. Another way to do this, I guess, would be to triple click on it and kind of drag this up here and bring the font down. So I'll zoom back in and just kind of drag this over here. But yeah, the name of the song is actually In the Court of the Crimson King. Boom. And I'm just going to place that right there. Now, the next thing I want to do is duplicate this layer. Very easily, you can click the text layer and see what I'm doing. I'm just clicking and dragging it on top of the create new layer, and it creates a copy. You can see it's indicated by the word right there. And I can click the move tool, and by holding shift, I can just drag it down the x-axis and get it to where I want. Now, there are 3. There's the name of the group, the name of the song, and the album. So we're going to hit the text tool and call this King Crimson, which is the name of the group. And I'm going to select that using Control A and change it to regular, make it a little thinner. Commit the change. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And The Court of the Crimson King is actually the name of the album, so I'm going to click italic, not italic, regular, yeah, and then I'm going to commit the changes. So yeah, that is more or less what YouTube is rocking with. Now, if I hold Control or Command, you can see over here I can select multiple layers, and then I can bring the Move tool and just kind of drag these up, add a little separation. Feather it, I guess is what they call it, right? I can feather it a little bit, make it a little bit more presentable, and that's pretty much it. But how are we going to make it a video, and how are we going to get it to YouTube? That's a great question, and we're going to go over that right now. What we have to do is create a PSD and bring that over to Adobe Premiere and create an actual video. So, and then that's what goes to YouTube. I'm going to click File, Save As, go to my desktop, make a new folder, and call it, we'll just call it Graphics, right? And we're going to give this in the Court of the Crimson King.psd. And click Save. We'll Alt-Tab over to Adobe Premiere. This is what it looks like when you open it up. And over here in this little bin area, this is where the files are. So I want to do File, Import, and travel to that folder on my desktop. Graphics, boom. It's going to pop up and say, hey, do you want to merge all these layers into one layer? I'm going to be like, heck yeah, do that. So you can see here's our PSD in the bin of Premiere. I can right-click on that and say New Sequence from Clip, and it's just going to automatically add it over here to it's going to make a sequence, right? And I can see that it's 30 frames a second. The duration is, what is that, 4 seconds? And yeah, it turns out that it is 4 seconds. And I'm hitting play with spacebar, and it's playing 4 seconds of just nothing, and then the video ends. That's great. But we need the song. Where is the song? Let's go get it. I was actually easily able to snag it off of the Internet Archive, so that's cool. I'm just going to click and drag that into Premiere. So here we are. We have our PSD and the MP3 of the song. And I'm just going to drag the MP3 of the song onto the timeline and kind of zoom out a little bit. This is a 9-minute long song. This is a song from a progressive rock band, so it's like, you know, it's pretty lengthy. And yeah, we're going to have to zoom in and just drag that layer all the way to the end, and you got yourself a video, essentially, right? So cool, you've done it. It's bare essentials. It works. It's function over form. This looks exactly like what YouTube would you know, automatically generate. And you can always come in here and adjust the gradient layer to look more like your liking. You can see as I have it selected, you can come kind of screw around with, you know, getting it to be a little bit more see-through, and you can always come up here and kind of mess with the gradient tool as well and get it to look more to your liking. But yeah, this is basically it. Over back in Premiere, I want to go to File, Export, Media. And here we go. We get our little export settings window. For some reason, this is drawing way too big. Okay, I just resized it. But yeah, this is what the export window looks like. And under export settings, very cut and dry, I want to go to H.264. This is the video format that the internet likes the most. And I'm going to click Preset and come down to, call it YouTube 1080p, right? Whatever. Cool. So output name, we're going to put it on the desktop in that graphics folder, in the Court of the Crimson King.mp4. Cool. Save, and I'm going to hit export. And it's going to render out an MP4. You go to your YouTube channel and click upload video, and yeah, you've just made fire. Congratulations, and thanks for sitting with me through this YouTube tutorial. If I could just be honest with you guys, that was actually really great. I had a ton of fun making that video. It's always a pleasure when I get to talk about Photoshop. I've just been doing it for a majority of my life, and so if there's anything that you would like to see me show you guys how to do in the future, let me know in the comments below. Also, it doesn't just have to be Photoshop. It could be video games. I could give you a Microsoft Paint tutorial. That could be pretty cool. But yeah, if you want to see more videos like these, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We put out interviews up here. This is our Secret Room program. I host a podcast with a lot of mentionable people here in the city. And like this video as well, because as you guys know, that's how the algorithm lets people know that this video exists, by recommending it to other people. And thanks for watching. We'll see you later.